Hello there, Kaz back in the box. And in this one, I'm going to play the track again that we're using in the last couple of videos. But I've already applied some different reverbs. So the one I've got in bus 1 has got like a bit of a curve like this. I've got a very short pre-delay here, which suggests like that the walls from which we're getting the bounce are very close, so the space is sparkly and bright and sharp, like immediate reverb coming back. In a sense, it's kind of a little bit short, and also I made sure that the distance is not too much and not too much of a decay either, because all these things will end up suggesting distance, even the density. However, I made the size actually big, because with that space, like if you're playing like a tiny instrument, the instrument in comparison to the space would have been that the space is actually big, but requiring the instrument to play a bit harder to get like a spark from it. So when you have tiny sounds, they don't come out, they don't generate too much reverb, but when it hits a bit hard, then you get a spunky, bright reverb to it. So, and this one I've employed mostly on the darabuka, a percussive instrument, and also on the akogo here on bus 1. And there's a very tiny bit of it, maybe I've even cooked it on the vocal, just to keep them in a similar space, so to speak, and to help them sit together. On the other one, I've got a different one, which I call Namirembe Cathedral. And again, this is a place where I like the way it sounds. And so I try to create that sounds like you're in that space. It usually is a little bit boomy, especially when you're in the far back of the room of the church. It's not a room, it's so huge. But the farther back in the room you are, you get this like boomy sound. Even when someone is talking and they don't have a big voice, it starts to sound a little bit weightier. So I left a lot of low end in, and in fact even lifted it up. But along the way, what I noticed with that space is that most of the sounds would be a little bit dull or warm. Dull is not quite the right word, but the sharpness and harshness and S's and T's are not so sharp in that space. So very important to work on the EQ when you're dealing with trying to create a space, not just dealing with these other parameters which define the space. For example, a big size, you see here, because the room is actually very big. Having a pre-delay that is a long time, because it takes a long time for the sound to come back from the walls to get those first reflections. And also you see that with the decay, it stays a little bit longer, so you're getting all these, the feedback of the sound takes some time. So I'm going to play that and so you hear what it sounds like. And along the way, I'll switch on and off so you can hear what is happening to stuff when it doesn't have these effects on it. So you can hear immediately, like every time I was touching one particular track and taking off a little bit of effect, it kind of like lost its place within the mix. It was not sitting there well. So the reverb has a good way of like placing something within the space to make it sit better with the other instruments. So things like the pad, I don't really need to like put reverb on it because it's taking up like all that space in the background. And with the drums, I don't want to like again exaggerate a space. I could put reverb on it, but like it would be overkill. But you can see with these particular 3 instruments, and they were chosen very specifically within this particular arrangement to see that could demonstrate how reverb can help them to sit in. But then one thing maybe you may have noticed, hopefully, is that previously in the last 2 videos when we had these parallel reverbs applied, this was going to the stereo output. So it was, the reverb was going straight to the output. And yet, with all the other instruments, they were going to a bus first. They were all compounded together, going to a bus on which I have some light compression. Sorry, I was trying to limit myself to use mostly like stock plugins, but at least I've managed it on the side of Reverb, which is the topic we're studying right now. But I put a bit of light compression there, and a little bit also with this. But this one is not really compressing to kind of change the music in any way. It's just operating on my voice, like so that when I speak, the music kind of ducks down a bit. And we're going to use this technique to understand how you can further provide space within a reverb. So the reverb itself now comes and also joins this group here with all the other instruments so that it can also have this same compression, this one on top, and then gels better, sits in better than the one we had in the previous video where it's kind of like all over the shop. However, even though it's sitting in better, you could hear, especially if I play the end of this thing, you can hear like it's like lingering like a lot, which is not a problem. Like it's the space that I wanted to design. But the problem with it is that if now we are dealing with the earlier parts of the voice where there are some phrases where we want articulation, we want to hear what the singer is, what the phrases are, we want to hear the syllables, but then there's this decay of reverb from the previous syllable just roaming around, and it kind of like masks the transients and the definition of the syllables that are coming after it. This now kills intelligibility, so you find that you can't quite tell what the person is singing about, or the words are not clear. And in fact, if you do a mix for someone, they might start to think that maybe the voice is quiet or things like that, when it's actually quite loud. It's just that once we don't hear the beginnings of phrases and the beginnings or the segmenting of the syllables, we can't hear definition. And then the general perception is that maybe that thing is quiet because we can't hear it. It has been masked by the actual reverb. To stop some of that masking, we duck the reverb. And to duck reverb, you apply compression to it, but that compression is controlled by something else. In this case, for example, we're going to apply compression on this track here, on this channel, on Reverb 2, where there is that church sounding reverb that is so long and masking the voice. So we're going to apply compression, and the compression that we're going to apply is going to be controlled by a different channel. And that channel will be the voice itself, so that whenever the voice is doing something, it kind of like triggers the compressor to suppress, to compress, to contain the reverb a little bit. And then once the voice is done with what it's doing, it kind of lets go, and the compressor releases the reverb so that the tails come through. So this will provide some room for the vocal to be more clear and not to be masked by the reverb. And the way we do that is we go to the sidechain top right here. I'm using just a stock compressor from Logic here. And we look for the track that is going to trigger the compressor. So this is the voice here. And once it's selected, we set a threshold, but the threshold is not being set on the basis of the reverb. It's being set on the basis of the voice. So I already know around -20 is actually quite cool. It's hitting, it's already, the voice is louder than that. It's around -10. So at around -20, it's already will be able to trigger the compressor. Indeed, if I just play now without doing anything else, you're going to see the compressor is acting, but it's acting not upon the actual reverb, but upon the voice that is coming in. Already, even without me doing anything, it's darkening a little bit of the reverb and it's providing more clarity for the voice. But I want to get the attack a little bit earlier so that I can really hear the beginnings of the words clearly. And then I'm going to have the release a little bit late so that it kind of like releases slowly, so we have a smooth return of the decay of the reverb. So this won't necessarily curtail or kill all the reverb in that space. It will just suppress it a little, and then at the end of the vocal, it kind of brings it back. I need to listen to that bit. That bit, you realize that actually it is there's a difference. Now I played it without the suppression, but now I'm going to play with the suppression all the way. Much clearer, much clearer. Quite a difference. Yeah, so as you could hear there, I think the reverb is a little bit, it's quite a big wash of reverb. We're in Enya territory. However, you could get the principles that we're talking about there, being able to duck the reverb and move it out of the way of the vocal and other instruments for that matter. So that's it. I think you got an idea of how to deal with ducking reverb and applying it in parallel and all that. So in the next one, we'll be moving on and trying to look at how these same principles apply in Ableton Live, and then also to use Reason to demonstrate how these things might also apply on real gadgets, like if you're not in the box, so to speak. So I'm Kaz Kasozi. Have a good day.